Hello and welcome back to Toy Thursday with Johnny Tiger on Thursday, May 6th, 2021. As promised last week, we are going to continue to take a look at another family instability, another family matter that just don't have very good dynamic. As I mentioned before, maybe because of my own family background, my own tumultuous upbringing, to quote the press kit in my documentary, my own tumultuous upbringing. So whenever characters, comic book characters, movie characters, have that kind of really wonky, really awkward family dynamic, kind of attract me and grab my attention. So last week we looked at the artificial intelligence Ultron and his son and his daughter, uh, Jocasta and Vision, and we learned a little bit about how just that family is just not really getting along. Now, I'm sure most of you, if you because this week's the Star Wars Day and all that, and then you go by this week's title, you are probably you were expecting Darth Vader, weren't you? You were expecting Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia Organa. I don't think I need to give any kind of spoiler warning. Star Wars has been out for like 30, 40 years, and everyone by this time know that Darth Vader is Luke's dad and Leia Organa is Luke's sister. And this is why Luke Skywalker and Leia never became a couple because that would be just wrong. Uh, Although in the beginning of the show, that definitely looked like it was going to be the case. But it's still a really classic moment when Darth Vader went did the whole "I'm your father" thing and join me in the dark side, and I'm going to make you powerful. And then Luke Skywalker went, "No, I'm not going to, even though you were my dad, and I'm not going to join you. Sorry, too bad." And then things went just really bad from that point on. Um, so how come I'm not showing you Darth Vader? Well, I'm almost embarrassed to say this because I love Darth Vader as a character. I really do. Darth Vader is one of my favorite Star Wars character, and I always tell people that if you ask me which comic book character is the most badass uh, disabled person in comic book or pop culture history, I would tell you that got to be Darth Vader. Darth Vader, the guy is multiple amputees and cannot even survive without a ventilator, and he's trapped inside a metal suit that designed to keep him alive. So he's like as disabled as you're going to get. He needs a respirator just to breathe, and yet the guy became one of the most feared Dark Lord in the entire universe. That takes some doing. That really takes some doing, especially when we're talking about a really high tech society, scientific society, where I just don't understand how come no one ever tried to just do a EMP on Darth Vader and turn off his life support system. You would think that that's all it would take to end the terror of Darth Vader. But no, he continued to be one of the most dangerous, most feared, most powerful Dark Lord in the galaxy, despite of how disabled he was. Now that definitely, definitely make him one of the most badass disabled character ever created. So I love Darth Vader, but surprisingly enough, and I don't know if this is fate or destiny or maybe a disturbance, imbalance in the force or whatever. I don't have a Darth Vader action figure. I really don't. Like, um, so yeah. Quick note: any one of you want to send me a birthday gift, or just want to send me a gift, a 6-inch Darth Vader action figure would be the same because to the date of this video, I do not have a Darth Vader. I think I have a Luke Skywalker action figure somewhere, but I don't think it's unboxed yet. I think it's sitting in a pile of uh, purchased action figure that's waiting to be unboxed. And I definitely don't have a Princess Leia Organa action figure, so I couldn't show Darth Vader. I couldn't show that sad family dynamic. I couldn't show that particular situation. Uh, but with that said, what we got going on this week, it's almost as cool as Darth Vader. In front of the camera, you're looking at a tall, muscular character with red and purple color sheen, wearing white metallic belt, metal bracelet. He has some flaring energy effect coming out of his hand. He's wearing a really weird looking helmet, almost like a motorcycle helmet actually, like a high tech motorcycle helmet, and he has a big billowing cape around his shoulder. He is very, very iconic. So those of you that are into your comic books and Marvel and X-Men, instantly you'll know this is the villain Magneto. Magneto, aka Eric Langshire, I believe that is his real name, Eric Langshire. Uh, he is, of all the comic book supervillains, one of my all-time favorite. And he wasn't always that way. He wasn't always my favorite. In fact, I'm going to tell you, Magneto is one of those characters that when I first encountered him back in 1992, I believe, was when I first encountered X-Men action figures, and one of the first one I received uh, as a gift was a Magneto action figure. I still remember that was a really awkward action figure. It was really scrawny looking, and the head looked really big because of the helmet. And you could take off the cape, which would just make him look even scrawnier. And he came with a pistol, and there was a lever on his back. And when you pull the lever, it did something. It like made him light up or something. I don't know. I don't know. He had a kind of a Zippo lighter kind of effect. Like when you pull that lever on his back, it made some kind of grinding noise, like, and then there's this like really weird sulfur smell coming out of the toy. And I think that the helmet was supposed to light up. So it was really weird the way they designed that toy. So at that time, in the early 90s, I had no knowledge whatsoever about X-Men or Marvel or who was what and what was the backstory. And I kind of just knew that Wolverine and Cyclops and Iceman and Storm, they were the good guys. And Magneto and Omega Red, love Omega Red. I'm going to do an episode to showcase him sometime. Magneto and Omega Red and Silver Samurai, those guys were the bad guys. That's all I knew about the X-Men back in the early 90s. I was still in Taiwan. I was living in Taiwan at the time, and I really didn't know anything about the pop culture here. So I was not impressed by Magneto. I mean, uh, I don't know how many of you know your Marvel comic, but if you don't look at their capability, if you don't look at their uh, personality, if you don't know anything about them, and you stand a guy like Magneto, who's basically, he's muscular, but he's a kind of normal looking guy in a cape and wearing a motorcycle helmet. You stand a guy like that beside a huge hulking uh, Russian killing machine like Omega Red, or you stand him next to an armored samurai guy who had laser sword like Silver Samurai, or some big Canadian beast of a warrior like Sabretooth, Magneto just didn't look like much. Like, to me, I was like, okay, what's the deal with this guy? He's just like a guy wearing a cape and a helmet, and he has a gun, so he shoots people. So he's like He's like Lex Luthor for the X-Men. Is that what his deal is? And then I found out, okay, his deal is he controls magnetism. That's his superpower. He's a lord of magnetism. That didn't sound very impressive. I mean, what the heck does that mean? That the guy can wave his hand and then his kitchen knife will fly to him, or no, the guy can wave his hand and then all the staples and nails and screws will fly into his hand, like magnetism. It just didn't really sound all that cool. But it was exactly that that made Magneto really cool. Gradually, I learned more and more about Magneto as a character, his motivation, his backstory, his personality, and I realized Magneto, first of all, not really a villain. I mean, the way he goes about achieving his goal, kind of villainous. He like a lot of things he did were kind of like terrorism. Uh, but in the end, his goal was very noble. He wanted to make mutant great because he realized that human beings would always discriminate against mutants. Human beings were not ready to coexist with uh, people that have different abilities. People with three arms, people with two heads, people with ability to set things on fire. Human beings were not ready to coexist with mutants. So a lot of mutants were getting persecuted, locked away, used for science experiment, or outright killed. So Magneto, being a mutant himself, that's all he wanted. He wanted a world for mutant kind. He wanted mutant kind to flourish and be left alone. To achieve his end, he did a lot of horrible things. But he did not do it for power. He did not do it for money. He did it because he wanted his race to survive. That was probably the first thing that started to turn it around in my head. That Magneto is a really cool character. That his motivation is not the same as most other villains that we hear about in comic book. And he's trying to fall over all over the place. Uh, he doesn't stand all that well because of that heavy cape on his back. Um, anyway, after learning about his backstory, I started reading more about Magneto, and the guy had an extremely traumatic childhood. I mean, he grew up in Germany during the Second World War. He watched his own parents being killed by Nazis in concentration camp, and that's when his mutant ability first surfaced. He used his magnetic ability, his ability to control metal. In another word, I believe he used that ability to fire a simple copper coin into the forehead of the guy who killed his parents. Like that's really cool. Like when I first heard about magnetism, I didn't think. I was thinking that okay, so the guy can make things come to him. The guy can like wave his hand and the knife and screwdrivers will fly into his hand. So what? I didn't realize that magnetism means he can fire those metal objects at people at high velocity. So anything metallic near him became deadly, like bullets and missiles and arrows and anything. Like he can make any metal object deadly dangerous. And then on top of that, that was the tip of the iceberg where Magneto was concerned. You see, most other mutants that we've seen in X-Men and Marvel superhero and stuff like that, their superpower is very visible, very quantifiable, very obvious. Wolverine, for example. Okay, so you cut him and he'll heal instantly. He has that healing factor. and he has claws that come out of his hand, and he can cut people up. That's it. That's Wolverine. Very kind of one-dimensional, right? Uh, Cyclops is a guy who can fire laser out of his eyes. Big deal. Like, okay, that's what we made. That's why they have energy weapons. That's why they make laser guns. So he can fire them out of his eyes. So, no, that's kind of, I mean, it's cool, but it's not really all that impressive. And then you have Storm. Okay, she's a woman that can control weather. She can summon lightning and storm. That's getting a little bit better. That's really kind of cool. But still, the application is kind of limited. She's only really effective if she's outdoors. You get her underground. You get her inside. She's not really all that useful. And then you have Iceman. Iceman, he's a guy who can transform himself into ice. He can transport, he can freeze a lot of things over, but he need water to work. Like if there's no water, his power doesn't work. Uh, Apparently nowadays they made Iceman a lot more powerful. He can freeze people by using the moisture in their own body and stuff like that. So okay, he's gotten a little bit more interesting. But you know what I mean? Like when you look at most of those mutants that we were shown in X-Men, their powers were basically just one-dimensional. They they do this and that's it, and you know what they do. There's no other possible creativity you can get out of them. Magneto, Magneto was different. Magneto's power was so intrinsically diverse that he became one of those super powerful mutants that was one of the most powerful mutants in the entire Marvel universe. Starting off, yes, he can make screwdriver fly toward his hand, and he can fire that screwdriver at whoever he wants to kill. But uh, he can also his control of magnetism was so great that he can lift up an entire military tank or tear apart an airplane just by looking at it. Anything made of metal, he's a master of magnetism. He could tear anything apart without even having to touch them. And then, when we go a little bit deeper into his power development, Magneto was able to pull all the blood out of a human body. Because what do we have in our blood? Iron. So he can rip all the iron out of a human body, killing a person that way. That's crazy creepy. Like, how would you even defend against that? Later on, when Magneto's power started developing even more, he developed the power to directly affect the planet's own magnetism. In another word, he could interact with Earth itself and use the power of gravity to get things done. So when there was a alien invasion, for example, Magneto was able to just look at these aliens' spaceship, and these spaceships would tear themselves apart. Uh, there was one time when I believe he kind of like used his own power to hold the entire planet together so the Earth wouldn't fly apart when there was a kind of a Armageddon event. So this is a guy who can use his power of magnetism to hold together an entire planet. That's crazy. Like this, because you got to think he can hold a planet together, which means if you piss him off, he can probably rip the entire planet apart as well, just by reversing his control of magnetism. Um, these outfit he's wearing, the helmet. There's another story about the helmet. We'll get to that in a second. Um, he has this armband on his arm, and this big rounded stud on his collar and his wide belt. These are all metal. Well, I mean, on this figure, they're plastic, but in the character design, they're metal. So what these things do is these metal outfit give him direct connection to his power. So he basically wear things on his body to boost his power. So using his belt and his metal armband and his study collar, he can direct his magnetism control towards them and make himself fly. So he can use them as a flying equipment. Really, really cool. During the story, when the evil robot sentinels were hunting down mutants, exterminating them, Magneto became one of the greatest forces against these evil robots. That's when we first started to see that Magneto is not really that bad of a person. He's not really the villain that we thought he was. He when he took part in the war against the Sentinels, he was able to again single-handedly rip them to pieces like these giant robots that as tall as skyscrapers. Magneto was able to just look at them and they would fall apart, or he could look at them and start controlling them for them to do his bidding. Because again, what are robots made of? A lot of metal. So Magneto's power is basically endless, bottomless, as long as there's any kind of a relationship between whatever he's targeting and anything metallic. Now let's talk about the weird helmet because, like I said, when I first got this action figure, one of the things that bugged me was his helmet. Not this particular figure, by the way. I mean, when I got my first Magneto action figure, the thing that bugged me was his helmet. I was like, why is the guy wearing a stupid motorcycle helmet? What's that about? Well, it turns out the Magneto, one of the uh, one of the things he feared the most is to be controlled mentally. He's really scared someone screwing around with his mind because he's so powerful. He has nothing to fear from anything physical, but he's really scared if someone mess with his head using a psionic attack or brainwave attack. And one of the greatest telepaths in the world, well, actually two of them, two of the world's greatest telepaths were on the opposing team. Professor Xavier, who was once upon a time Magneto's best friend, but now opposed his idea and fought against him, and Professor Xavier's student, Jean Grey. Both of them were like the world's strongest mental control people. So Magneto really scared of them. So he fashioned himself this helmet out of this special kind of metal. I can't remember what it was, but a special kind of metal that can block out psychic attack. So with the helmet on, Magneto is nearly invincible. Uh, you can't get through his head. You can't get control his mind. And on a physical level, I mean, we're talking about a guy who can rip apart entire planet. So that on a physical level, there's no one that he had to be scared of. I mean, even the Incredible Hulk has some iron in his blood, which means if Magneto really wants, he can tear the Incredible Hulk to pieces just by looking at him. So, enough about Magneto. He is, like I said, my favorite supervillain uh, of all time, and one of the most powerful mutants in the Marvel universe. And this Magneto that you are seeing in front of the camera, this is a newer one. This one came out in 2019. Prior to him, my previous Magneto action figure that's spent the longest time on my shelf was made in 2002 by Toy Biz, and that Magneto was so adequate that ever since I got that one, I just never felt the need to get another Magneto. That 2002 Magneto was good enough. That was, to me, that was the Magneto. That was the only Magneto I needed. So even though there were other Magnetos being made ever since, I skipped them. I skipped them. Everyone that came out. I was like, this one's nice, but I already have my Magneto. I don't need another one. They're not that much better that I need them until this one. And to tell you the truth, I wouldn't have gotten this one either if he didn't come in a three-pack with his children, and because I didn't have the action figure of his children, so I decided that, well, it's time for an update, time to get a new Magneto and get two new characters while I was at it. So I got this Magneto. Now let's look at his children. First, let me introduce you to the story of Quicksilver. That's this guy here, kind of muscular, but really skinny looking. Got a kind of lanky, skinny, muscular build. Silver hair blowing back like he's running, and he's wearing a blue costume with black trunks and with a white lightning bolt down the front of his body. His white gloves and white boots. Yeah, I do my research before I do these Toy Thursday. Otherwise, I would never be able to know what color I'm talking about. So yeah, this is why these take a while because I have to sit down and actually do some research to know what color these things are. So Quicksilver, his name is Pietro Maximoff. Pietro Maximoff and his sister Wanda Maximoff. Wanda and Pietro. That would make a good name for a Celtic rock band. Wanda and Pietro. Um, so Pietro Maximoff grew up with his sister, and both of them were orphaned. They didn't know who their parents were, and they basically traveled all throughout Europe and were mixed in with the gypsies and with the Wiccans, and they lived an existence that was less than stellar. They grew up stealing, cheating, scamming people, and one day when they were teenagers, uh, soon after their mutant ability started to come out, Wanda, Petro's sister, her ability was witchcraft, magic. We'll talk about her after we talk about Quicksilver here. And Petro, aka Quicksilver, his power was, well, being really fast. Yeah, that's his superpower. He runs really fast. Kind of like the Flash in a DC comic, but not quite as cool as the Flash. The Flash runs like faster than time, faster than light speed itself. Pietro, nah, not that fast, but he's still fast. He's like the speed of sound or something like that. Anyway, soon after that, Pietro and Wanda's superpower, mutant power, started to blossom when they were teenagers. One day, they pissed off a whole village of people, probably stealing their stuff or whatever. And the village, the village people, the villagers, YMCA, the villagers started hunting them, chasing them, and was going to lynch them and burn them at the stake. When none other than Magneto just happened to walk by, and Magneto realized that these two teenagers were mutants. And like we mentioned, Magneto is all about mutants. Magneto's whole mission in life is to make mutantkind great, to stop humans from hunting and killing mutants. So Magneto took a hand in the matter and saved them. And then they ended up being drafted into Magneto's mutant army and to battle the superheroes and to do some terrorist activities. Um, and not long after, they did a few evil things for Magneto, but then both of them decided that Magneto was too extreme, and they decided to go over to the good guys instead. It wasn't until many, many years later, when they met again, that Magneto finally found out Pietro and Wanda were his long lost children. He didn't know about that. When he saved them, when he recruited them, he didn't know he was saving his own children. And Pietro and Wanda didn't know he was their father. So of course there was a big kind of awkward reunion, on the battlefield. They were fighting on opposing side, and then Magneto went to Wanda and did that "Wanda, I am your father" thing, and Wanda was like, "Oh wow, that's so cool, Daddy, I miss you." Well, she didn't really say that, but she was happy. And then Magneto went to Pietro, aka Quicksilver, and then Pietro, I am your father. Come join me. And Pietro was like, yeah, okay, not impressed, And so unfortunately, the reception wasn't quite as good there. Uh, and despite Pietro, Quicksilver, occasionally end up on the wrong side of the law, even went insane for a while and did some horrible, horrible thing. Uh, at the core, he is one of the good guys, and he's always kind of on opposing side of his father. Magneto believed in uh, ruling with an iron fist and law and order, and everything have to be strict, and there's no flexibility. While Pietro is wild and free and believe in freedom of choices, and that bad guy can be good guys and good guy can sometimes be bad guys. His belief is less black and white. He's more in a gray area. So father and son never really get along. Now I will say, Quicksilver is not on my top pick of a character I want. Like if you ever ask me what character do you want to see made into an action figure and you want to collect, Quicksilver is nowhere on that list. Why? Because he's boring. He's really boring. Like anyone who read enough Marvel comic can tell you, Quicksilver almost never win any fight. His superpower is to run away. His superpower is that he run really fast, so he's very good at delivering messages, or delivering equipment, or carry people to safety. But he is not a very good fighter in any kind of a sense. Uh, he is maybe like third grade, fourth grade. Like he's not on the A list, he's not on the B list of superhuman. Uh, yeah. So and on top of that, his design is not really all that impressive. He's a tall, skinny, lean-looking guy with silver hair who runs really fast. Okay, that's kind of uh, just that. So he doesn't really have a charming personality. He doesn't really have a very deep character design, and his uh, story is usually not very heroic. So I'm not a big fan of Quicksilver. Let's just put it this way. With that said, this action figure of Quicksilver is pretty well made. I mean, he's got the right kind of physique, skinny but muscular, and he is very articulated. Look at his shoulder. He has this. His shoulder can actually flex in and out, uh, like a real human shoulder can. Not many action figures can do that even today. And then his arms can go up and down, bicep rotate in and out, and the elbow, double jointed elbow, and his wrist can flex, head, turn, turn, left, right, nod up and down. Torso, he can do crunch forward, crunch back, rotate left, rotate right, his legs, hip, legs and kick, forward and back, side to side, double jointed knee, like he can fold his leg like that. Okay, uh, ankle, turn, side to side. This is like as much as I don't care for the character, he is very well made. It's built on a very flexible, a very articulate body. So it's still not one of my favorite characters, but it's definitely good to have him on the shelf. Now let's look at the true attraction of this family relationship. The sister to Pietro Maximoff, daughter to Magneto, one of the most powerful uh, magic user in the Marvel comic and its associated universes. Uh, Member of the Avenger and destroyer of mutantkind. This here is the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. She is a good-looking woman. Wanda Maximoff is she's supposed to have red hair and green eyes, but I believe this action figure shows her with brown hair. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but she is still really good looking. Her outfit is mostly red and pink with a swirly metallic look to her garment, and she has this pink energy surrounding her arm, like she's in the middle of using her magic. Turning her around, we can look at that thick mane of hair. That's some nice looking hair right there, like just so luscious and thick on her head. I think that hair alone is what make or break this particular action figure. And in this case, they did a good job on her hair. She's also got her tiara on her head, and she's sporting a very nice cape on her torso, just like Daddy Dear. Magneto has a pretty cool cape too. So I already talked about Wanda. She's a sister to Pietro, and both of them were orphaned, and they were traveling throughout UK and being chased from place to place because they like to steal things from people, and they were orphans and scam artists and uh, delinquent, not very nice children. When she was a teenager, her power started to manifest, and she was able to tap into and directly interact with magic. Her ability in magic was so great that she was actually considered to be the next candidate to come after Doctor Strange, who was the most powerful sorcerer in the world. But she ended up not getting that position because uh, Wanda's power is mostly linked to chaos magic and dark magic, and the sorcerer supreme, like Doctor Strange, have to be more on the good guy's side. Despite her power mostly linked with chaos and darkness, um, Wanda, aka Scarlet Witch, mostly worked along the good guys with the good guys. Um, if you guys remember last week, we showed Ultron's son, the Vision, the android called Vision. Vision and Wanda were husband and wife for a while, and they were both part of the Avengers superhero team. Now, Wanda's superpower is like her father, in that on the surface, she doesn't seem that impressive, especially when she's portrayed in a cartoon or in movies. Most of the time you see her and she's just like waving her hand around and do some Harry Potter like sayings, firing magic bolts at people and then wave her hand and someone can't move. Uh, just like regular magic stuff. But there's two things that Wanda accomplished in her life using her magic that make her one of the most dangerous and one of the most powerful character in Marvel history. First was Wanda was able to single-handedly, actually not even hand, single-mindedly destroyed, ended, wiped out mutants, all the mutants in the world. And that's ironic. Her father, Magneto, his whole goal in life was to preserve mutantkind. His whole goal in life was to make sure that mutant would survive and thrive and not get prosecuted by human. So I don't want to go into the whole story of M storyline because it's really long and complicated and kind of messed up. But suffice to say, there was a big argument, and then some really bad things were said and done, and uh, in the end, Wanda, Scarlet Witch, did this little girl thing. She got annoyed with her dad, Magneto. She got annoyed with Magneto, and she basically said, "You love mutants more than you love your own children. You spend more of your life trying to save mutants than try to take care of your own bloody children. So that's it. That's it. I have enough of it. No more mutants. That's it. That's all she said. No more mutants. But because she's a witch, because she's got such powerful magic, the moment she said no more mutants, poof, the entire world of mutants, their ability gone. They become normal human beings. Like just like that, all the mutants become normal human beings just because Wanda got pissed off and said no more mutants. I mean, we got to be really glad she didn't say no more human or no more universe or anything like that. She said no more mutant. So that was crazy. Like that kind of power is dangerous. I can't think of another character in the entire Marvel world, the Marvel universe, that can do that just with three words: no more mutants. That's how powerful she is. And the second time she demonstrated just how crazy powerful she is when the Phoenix came to Earth. Now, for those of you who don't know your Marvel universe, the Phoenix is this alien force, like alien god. The Phoenix is like an alien god that go to a world, try to remake that world in its own image, and then when things don't work out, it will end up destroying that world. So the Phoenix came to Earth and started trying to remake human beings into its own image, and it wasn't working. And a lot of superheroes tried to stop the Phoenix, like some of the best superheroes, like the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Spider-Man, uh, the Fantastic Four, um, all those guys, Captain America, tried to stop the Phoenix. No one could even come close to stopping something like that. I mean, the Phoenix is basically God. Like it's crazy powerful. Um, in the end, again, the Phoenix defeated all the superheroes on Earth, and there were only two left facing down the Phoenix. Uh, One is Scott Summers' daughter, Hope. I can't remember what her super name was, but the other one was the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, daughter to Magneto. And again, Wanda did that thing. Someone should have warned the Phoenix, don't piss her off, because she did that. No more Phoenix. No more Phoenix. And poof, the Phoenix was gone. No, like just vanished. Like that. The godlike creature that defeated the entire Earth of superhero just got banished by 3 words from this woman. So the Scarlet Witch is crazy powerful. And I don't mean crazy powerful as I mean super powerful. I mean she is super powerful, but she's also crazy. You see, uh, she supposedly can't have children because her husband was an android, so they can't have children. But Wanda wanted children so much, she created 2 kids for herself out of thin air just by wishing. Again, her magic is so powerful that she can just wish 2 children into existence. And there was a period of time when she completely went psycho and went mad, uh, and people, all the like heroes and bad guys, tried to kill her because they knew how dangerous she was. And luckily, she's more stable now. But yeah, she is psychologically unstable and really really powerful. Luckily, most of the time she's on the side of the good guys, to the dismay of her father, Magneto. So let's bring them back. Now we have the unhappy family trio. Here's Big Daddy Magneto in the center, Quicksilver, Pietro Maximoff on the left, and the Scarlet Witch on the right. Even though they cannot make a peaceful uh, family together, they do look pretty good standing together in a family portrait. Thank you for checking out today's Toys Thursday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Fitness Friday. For now, have a good night.